All right, so in this video we're going to share with you some of the pros and cons of living in any one of the many communities, towns, villages, hamlets that dot the landscape north of Waterloo. And make sure you stick around to the very end, because the last con that I'm going to share with you is something that nobody ever talks about. We're going to get started with that right now. So hey, if you're new to this channel, make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button, as well as the notification bell for future videos about everything related to communities in and around Waterloo, specifically north of Waterloo. So there's a lot of different hamlets and villages and towns, small towns, and beautiful, beautiful places to live, and we're going to fill you in with all of the information related to that. But let's get started now with the pros and cons related to living in communities north of Waterloo. First of all, the pros. You know, one of the pros that I see is scenery. If you drive around, now I happen to live just outside of Drayton, which is about 25 minutes, 30 minutes north of Waterloo. And it's just, what I never get tired of it is the undulating landscape. Farms and kind of a mixture between farms and scenery, you know, trees and lakes and rivers and creeks and what have you. Just beautiful. And also, because of the changing of the seasons, that scenery is always changing, times of day. You know, sometimes I come home, you know, especially I would say around this time of year. I'm shooting this video in March, and the sun is a bit lower in the sky than it might be in the middle of the summer. And so there's just kind of this crispness, or this edge, this beautiful color to the landscape as you drive around. And you know, if you're into hiking or cycling, you get to experience that as well. Another thing that I find really beneficial is the lack of traffic. You know, I think we've gotten spoiled living here, because you know, when you get in the car, you just put it in drive and start driving, and you don't really have to worry about stopping at stoplights or waiting and you know, getting through an intersection. It happens maybe once in the blue moon, but typically we just get up and go, and we don't experience the headaches related to traffic until we get into the city. And I can't tell you how beautiful that is, and how often when I'm in the city, I think to myself, man, am I ever glad that I don't have to put up with this every day. So anyway, I would consider that a benefit. Another really cool benefit is just kind of the small town vibe. You know, when you go into the grocery store, or you go out to a restaurant, yeah, I mean, you're just walking along the street, you bump into people who you know, and they know you. And now, of course, that doesn't happen right away, but if you're not familiar to somebody and they see you 2 or 3 times, they're going to ask you, who are you? Oh, did you move to the area? There's this friendly vibe, and that's really enjoyable. Related to that, I would say, is kind of the simplicity of the people here. I mean, I don't want to say simplicity in a bad way, but I mean, there is kind of a trusting attitude. Yeah, it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing when people have this expectation of the best. They're willing to be open, and they're not guarded. And I think probably part of that has to do also with the Mennonite culture. There's a lot of old order and conservative style Mennonites living in the area, and they bring a really cool work ethic to the area, and you know, kind of honesty, integrity, hard work, things that people all appreciate. And of course, they are identifiable because of the way that they dress and the modes of transportation and what have you. But really, I would be challenged to find somebody that's in more of the mainstream culture that is negative or down on the Mennonites. They make a positive contribution, and they also lend to that idea of friendliness and simplicity, and just that small town vibe that we experience here. Another thing related again to that is, when you drive around, especially in the summertime, there's all these little markets or stands at the end of driveways. Sometimes they have cut flowers. Sometimes, a lot of times in the summer, they'll have different foodstuffs, vegetables, cucumbers or cauliflower, green beans, Brussels sprouts. And then at the right time of year, of course, they'll also have sweet corn and also homemade cheeses and summer sausage and things like that. And that's just, again, those foods are all wholesome. They're healthy. Not really filled with pesticides. I would say, they're not organic technically, but really they are. So really wholesome, healthy foods that you can pick up for really a very good price when you stop at these roadside stands. So that's another real kind of benefit. Another thing is the community spirit. I would say that the communities in and around here, there is this closeness, this cohesion. I used to take my daughter when she was younger. She would play soccer, and what I found. My wife works in the library, and there are kind of pockets, and I guess you have that anywhere. You have the crowd that is really into going to the library. You have another crowd that maybe goes regularly to the hockey rink, and soccer fields, the same thing. And so when my daughter was really interested in playing soccer, and we signed her up for several years in a row for playing in the house league soccer here in Drayton, then what I found was that there was a whole different crowd of people there than I was familiar with, and I got to know some of those people, and just hanging out, and really again contributing to that sense of place, that sense of belonging, that sense of being together, and just enjoying life together. And I thought that was pretty cool. Now, if you're going to move to this area and you're coming from the city, you're also going to be looking at housing. And one of the beauties of housing in this area is that the lots tend to be larger than what you would see, especially like for new building lots or new homes. Sometimes in the city, not in all cases, but sometimes you'll see them packed in quite tightly. And if you go around the newer communities here, in north of Waterloo, then you'll find that there is more elbow room. The lots are somewhat larger, and you've got room to put up a trampoline or even put in a swimming pool or what have you, and not feel like you're falling over your neighbors. And then finally, I would say one of the benefits of living in this area is house prices. Now, house prices have gone up here just like they have everywhere, but if you compare a single detached bungalow in Atwood, for example, or in we'll go with Atwood or Listowel or Palmerston or what have you. If you look at a single detached bungalow in a community like that, chances are it's going to have a larger lot, and it's going to be at a lower price than what you could get something for comparably in Waterloo or in Kitchener or Guelph. And so to me, that's the benefit that draws people out here financially, because there are also cons to living here in these communities north of Waterloo, and I'd like to address that next. Okay, turning now to the cons related to living in communities north of Waterloo. First, I would say the biggest con that jumps out to me right out of the gate is travel. And it's travel time and travel expense. It used to be for years that I worked in Guelph, and I also did stints in other communities, always in sales, and real estate sales actually, but I was working on projects for a high volume builder. And the travel time, I sometimes wondered whether it was worth it to live out here when I worked in Guelph, for example, year after year. And because, it would be like, 45 minutes, say, one way. And so that's an hour and a half on the road, and then you got to stop for gas. So sometimes that's like 2 hours. And that adds up every day, day in, day out. That's a lot of time. And so there were times that I wondered whether it was really worth it. At the end of the day, I still considered it worth it because obviously we stayed, and I found that there were other benefits that outweighed that, but definitely that is a con. And of course, the expense in terms of fuel and maintenance and tires and what have you all added to that. Another con, I would say, is driving hazards. You know, in the wintertime, it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while you end up staying at home because the roads are just too dangerous to be on. And you know, when I was younger, I would take a lot more risks, and sometimes in retrospect, I mean, actually I shouldn't say that. Even last year I took a risk one time that really was dumb. I came out of it okay, but still, there are risks to driving in the wintertime, and there are other risks on the road as well, particularly animals, you know, deer. We in our family have hit several deer over the years, and also skunks and raccoons and that sort of thing. And there's also risks in terms of farm equipment. You know, a lot of the roads around here, especially in the fall when it's harvest time, you're going to see a lot of tractors and combines and stuff like that on the road, and you got to be careful. You got to watch out for them and slow down and take your time getting around them, or you could hurt yourself and hurt other people as well. So that's a con, I would say. And of course, the old order Mennonite buggies and that sort of thing. Another con, now it depends a little bit on where you live, you know, in which village or hamlet or community. But many of the children around here end up taking a school bus to school. So that's time on the bus. You know, now there's a convenient aspect to that for parents because they don't have to bring their kids to school, but they can just watch them get onto the bus at the end of the driveway. But still, it's time for the kids. You know, it could be half an hour, 20 minutes, 40 minutes on the bus one way, and then the same back again coming home every day. And so that can be tiring. It makes for a long day for the kids, especially younger kids. And another con, I would say, in terms of living in these areas is limited selections. You know, if you decided on an evening, on a Friday night, for example, you both have had a tough week. You both come home from work and you say, you know what, I don't feel like making supper. Let's go out for dinner, or let's order in some pizza. Well, ordering in pizza where we live, for example, it means actually going to the pizza store and picking it up, which is not a big deal, but again, it is a bit of an inconvenience. And then the other thing is we have two pizza places to choose from within reasonable distance. And a lot of people just have one. And same with going out. If you want to go out to a restaurant, well, there are, maybe there's one selection, maybe there's one really nice restaurant. Now, the restaurants tend to be quite nice, but it's not like in the city where you can have, you can decide on a whim whether you're going to go to a Chinese restaurant or Italian or Ethiopian or Thai, you're going to have Thai food, or a steakhouse or whatever. You got all these different options when you live in the city, and you don't necessarily have the same type of selection when you're out here in the rural landscape north of Waterloo. I would say another lack of selection applies to other things as well. We tend to do our grocery shopping at one grocery store. Now we can go into the city or go to other communities that are a bit further out, and then we have other selections, but we tend to go to just one. Same with hardware stores. We've got two hardware stores that are nearby. If you're in the city, we don't have Rona, we don't have Home Depot. We do have Home Hardware, but we don't have Canadian Tire. And that's just some examples. So I would say lack of selection is one of the inconveniences, or one of the cons. The biggest con, the one that I mentioned at the beginning, is actually convenience. Now you might say, I was going to put convenience in the pro section, But I started thinking about it, and I realized really in some ways it's an inconvenience because, or it's a con, the convenience, because when you're in a small community, you can actually walk to the grocery store, walk to the dental clinic, walk to the hardware store, walk to the one restaurant in town, that sort of thing, you know. So it's convenient, but because it's convenient, you sometimes settle for things, for that lack of selection that I talked about earlier. So anyway, it's just something to think about. All in all, though, I would say that there's more pros than cons. I had to really think about the cons, and maybe that's my bias coming through, but so be it. Anyway, if you like this video and you want to, make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button as well. We appreciate that. And if you're interested at all in moving out or checking out some properties here north of Waterloo, by all means give me a call, reach out to me either by text or by telephone, or you can set up a Zoom call, send me an email, whatever. I'd love to work with you, and thanks for watching. We'll talk again soon.